going. I'm going to the magic page. Yeah, let's just say last night was a good night for me.
Yeah? What'd you do?
Everything except for baseball. So I more or less broke even, and we're live now. People will start popping in. I more or less broke even. Lost a little bit actually in baseball, but just killed it with hockey and with college basketball. Tripled up.
Nice. Oh, the college basketball, man. So, like, I think 80% of my lineups cashed last night. I finished third in the nighttime GPP. Had I don't know, every single one was just in contention. And I feel like that's not just me, it's everyone. Like these projections, I've said it every day this week, but these projections are just insane. Like, are you using the Osmo?
Oh yeah, that was what I did. I literally did nothing but look at numbers because I don't even know who the players
No,
are.
exactly. That's kind of the beauty of it. It's like you don't overthink it. You're like, I'm just going to trust these numbers. I don't have any opinions on this. So maybe you can get a little bit sharper by like not putting in four guys from the same team. But I mean, maybe that doesn't even work either because that Tennessee Purdue game went nuts. So Homer Cleese was really close. I think he finished fourth in the big GPP. Tommy Nation, everyone was around there. So I'm going back tonight and gonna try and build this bankroll a little more and hope these projections just keep on rolling, right?
Yeah, I saw Tommy Nation there. I was like, "Hey, buddy, you're on vacation. What are you doing? Get off my corner, man."
Yeah, I thought he was like, yeah, this is like we're supposed to bank with his lineups, right? This is garbage. He's I thought he was in a no DFS state too. So who knows? He's
probably break his cover
for all we know. Yeah, he's probably just at home ice fishing right now, and we're none the wiser.
Oh, that
just
would
didn't feel like doing a show. Do we have a link for the show, by the way? Someone's asking in chat there.
Yep, let me drop it in there. Sorry, I tweeted it. I got that far.
Hey, that's all right.
There's a lot of moving parts on these.
It's a little bit crazy, a little bit hectic these days. So much going on, but we'll get there. You tossing her in chat right now?
Yep, I'm doing it right there. And we'll be good.
Let's go. I'm just going to crack that. So you're going to play. Unfortunately, tonight, the crappy part about this slate is that these contests suck on DK and on FanDuel. They've basically just decided that it's baseball season now, I guess, and we're not going to pay attention to hockey, which is disappointing, to say the least, from these guys that we've been supporting all year. So I don't know if that's going to continue for the next week, the final week of the NHL season, and they're just going to ignore hockey or what. But think about your contest selection tonight. The $5 one, like if you're not a pro, be careful with that one on DK. You know, you've got like every pro entering 142 lineups or whatever it is. So that's a tough one to win when you're going up against those odds. I know my ROI when I go up against the pros with 150 max is not great. So I'm sure a lot of people have that same kind of experience. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to go in it just because what the hell, right? But, just be careful.
Yeah. And for me, I did this last night. I did, what did I do? I hit up all the quarter contests I could get into. And then I've had a couple entries in a $1 contest. And these are all leagues and groups because I don't like how top heavy the tournaments are for starters on DraftKings in the sites. So, and I got in all the, the Supermax or what do they call those? Because that's where I won the boosters. So
boosters, yeah.
Let's talk about my favorite subject for a little bit, me. So so I got into all those, and I had like $25 in, and then I had another $30 in to the college basketball. Plus, I had a few hundred going into NBA, and NBA, and a couple hundred going into baseball. So I was doing 4 sports that were all locking at the same time, essentially. Now, the baseball had locked a little earlier, but we'd been doing that all day. I did the baseball show for an hour and a half with Josh, did the hockey show with you, did 2 articles and all this stuff. So I was just scrambling. So
you're burning the candle.
Yeah, the funny part was I didn't baseball's my best, and I lost about $20 in there. So I was like,
That's all right.
So, I wasn't, I don't even know if it's that much. So it wasn't that big of a deal because there were so many slates and yada, 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 and all of that. But I hit on, I tripled up on NBA. I absolutely rolled it behind Goran Dragic and a couple other players that people weren't on nearly enough. And then I had a boatload of Detroit won, like everywhere. And I ended up hitting 2 of my quarter contests into $10. So I turned my 25 NHL bucks into like $57, which was awesome. And then for college basketball, I turned my $35 into $99. So
sweet.
You add those all up, and I turned a couple $100 into a couple $100 more.
That's all you want, right?
So exactly. And I was like, holy cow, winning 3 out of the 4 sports when I was doing that all day. That was crazy.
Awesome.
That's crazy.
Awesome.
All right, let's get into the slate here. We do have a few people trickling in. It is Friday, so people are going to be going out for their tasty beverages. They're going to be looking at NBA, and they're going to be looking at MLB, etc. Don't forget college basketball. Again, props to those Awesemo projections. And for those of you just popping in, even Homercleese was making a serious run in the $3.
Yeah.
And I think it was an $8 contest last night. I had him beat in the $1 contest. So
nice. That's all you want.
Exactly. And then he may have got me at the end.
I thought he had it with he had like the Diatike hammer, and I think he had one other player down the stretch there with no one in front of him, but I guess some guys caught him from behind. So yeah, it was, but it was good. Also, one other note about these college basketball contests, I've been entering the late night ones. After the first one locks, there's a late night one. It almost always has overlay. So there's usually they usually fill up like 60%. So you just get just that extra bonus of that overlay. So just watch out for those to maximize those CBB profits tonight.
All right. And then how is it on the 2-game slates? Because I was looking at that today and I was like, oh, maybe today will just be my last day because it's the last 4-game slate. But
yeah,
it still
I don't know.
Works out.
It's fine. Like that. Yeah, I finished third in the $10 last night in the 2-game slate, and I just basically went down Osmo's optimal projections and popped in as many of the point per dollar players as I could really quickly, and it worked out. So that's pretty much it. That's all I did.
All right, that's the way to go. So for those of you that have not yet joined Osmo, promo code Hit the Ice, all one word, 50% off any 1-month package. Jump in now, get all access, and you're going to get over the next month. We've got the Masters, we've got baseball, we've got NBA finishing up the season plus playoffs, we've got the NHL playoffs coming out, we've got NASCAR, we've got MMA. It's loaded, it's lit, as the kids say. You can jump in for about $1 a day, $1.25 a day. Not a bad way to go.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get into this. We'll probably 7 games. Probably takes about 30 minutes or so, but I'm sure everybody appreciates an abbreviated, concentrated amount of information.
I was going to say, so I wasn't going to play tonight actually very much. And then I saw what we kind of have. We'll get into this slate a little bit, but we have some really interesting leverage spots today that might be to our advantage that I think a lot of people aren't on. So we'll hit those up, and hopefully no one is on them, or less people than normal are, and we can kind of gain an edge in the field here. But we'll see as we get into it a little bit.
Sounds good. First one we have is St. Louis at the Rangers. Now, St. Louis is a team I do like to look at home. I like their power play one, and I like their top line. But my question is, how are they going to be over here on the road as dominating favorites? Naturally, I closed my odds page, so let me get that back open. But they're sitting here. Let's see. Sorry, VegasInsider.com. Little shout out to them because they literally have every sport I need to look at. So they're my go-to guys here. But we've got St. Louis. Oh my God, 2-1 favorites. I figured it would be a big one. 220, 210, depending. Once you get offshore, it gets a little bigger. But this is an intriguing spot here because the Rangers have been kind of sad sacks lately, and Bennington is. We played him already once this week, and when he had that nice rating there from Alex, and he's checking up with a BB once again, which isn't horrible, but with this kind of odds if someone's going on the road and they're going into the other arena, does the home team generally get more a boost in the shot attempts that they get just from it being a home ice advantage? Is that a global statement that we can make, or is that just not a true statement?
I would say so, but it's probably like not very much. Like
Okay.
there's some teams that will have like really pronounced splits, like Boston and Winnipeg and Vegas. I think I haven't looked into their shot total data, but I would assume that they generate more shots at home. For the most part, I'm sure like it's just across the board. You get one or two more shots maybe at home, but it probably wouldn't be too much.
Probably not enough to really drive behavior, and it's going to be more based upon how teams are built and what their offensive and defensive philosophies are. Then,
yeah, and I think that stuff's already baked into the lines and to the numbers too, right? So I try not to overthink that kind of stuff. I was really on St. Louis 1 here to begin with, just because they have well documented best numbers in the NHL pretty much as a line since they've been put together. I looked for my Stacks article. I just kind of looked at their numbers recently, and they haven't really suffered any kind of a tail off. So just generating really a lot of high danger chances, about 17 per 60, 30 to 35 scoring chances per 60. So great spot. I don't know, like if you want to match up against the Rangers, who have been one of the worst defensive teams in the league, you are probably wanting to go up against their depth rather than their top line. At the very least, their top line is the worst matchup of any of the other lines, which is usually the case, but it's more pronounced here with Rangers 2 and 3 just being so piss poor defensively. So Kreider draws back in on that top line as well, which gives it an edge. And I think for the most part, from what I looked at, the Rangers tend to hard match at home. So you will see Zibanejad going up against the St. Louis Blues top line, which makes me actually a little bit more interested in the slightly higher priced recently St. Louis 2 line with Schwartz, Perron, and Sunkvist. They've been playing really well. They've won somebody a slate or two recently. So I'm going to have a couple shares of them and hope that they fly under the radar a bit. And then probably just not going to get to much on the Rangers side here just because the Blues are such a juggernaut.
And that makes a lot of sense there. Of course, I pulled up a few notes here. Yep, and I wanted to make sure you had covered the St. Louis 1 that you had featured. And then lastly, what about and as I've gotten back into this, I've remembered that when I get into the MME mode, I haven't worried as much about goalies because it seems to be such a dice roll. And that's why I don't know that so for baseball, I can withstand the variance and I'll play cash games and all that. I usually wait about a week or 10 days into the season once we're not doing double sports and all that. So I can kind of focus on what is the quote optimal lineup, etc. I just don't know that I could get there for hockey because it's literally all over the place, even more so than pitchers. And for pitchers last night, good God, we just by example for common language, we saw Greinke and Chris Sale, both Cy Young winners, two of the best in the game, give up a combined 7 home runs, 14 earned runs in 7 1/3 innings. Holy hell, those guys are like two of the top, Sale's one of the top 3 and Greinke's top 15, top 20 probably. They got their ass kicked. There's just sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. Now, over the course of their 30 starts, over the course of a goalie's, 55, 60 starts, it'll even out and the talent and cream will rise to the top. But good God, on any one day, I don't think I can get there, Nolan. And that was just more of an eye-opening thing last night for me as I was cruising through looking at some of my lineups in the classic version of DraftKings NHL contests.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
All right. Are we ready for our next game?
Just like some value plays here. Just on D, I think John Gilmore's interesting. He's cheap. Shattenkirk's also a little cheap for the Rangers. Not a great spot, but 20-plus minutes for power play defenseman. I think you're okay there. Rangers lines are all kind of cheap, so if you want to use them as a filler stack, they're not going to be owned either, but I'm not super high on any of them. Though I think our crunches were getting a little bit to the second line there, but we'll see because we're gonna have to redo things now. As I mentioned, Chris Kreider is back in now, and he's gonna go skate on that top line. Okay. Let me just check to see what the rest of the lines are like, just so gonna be on top of that. So Buchnevich was also with Zibanejad, and then Nemesnikov will move down to the second line with Keedle and Letary, and then Anderson, Strome, VC. So it's Brendan Lemieux who was on that top line, and he's all the way down to the bottom line now.
Yeah. Okay.
Line with Houghton and Nieves. So upgrade Rangers 1, I think, and a little pricier, but not a bad price for that line. Just a tough matchup.
All right. On to our next game here. The Nashville Predators going into Pittsburgh, taking on the Penguins. We've got our confirmed goalies in Pekka and Murray, which, two solid goalies. Not exactly have me doing cartwheels going against each other. When looking at this particular one, let me get back to my page here. The only note I had for myself was ask Nolan about Pittsburgh 1 as compared to Pittsburgh 3.
Okay.
For the savings on going to Pittsburgh 3, and then I didn't know if this was one of those matching situations here that you and Jake get into a lot more.
It's a little bit tough to tell. I think what Pittsburgh's doing, because they haven't played at home in about 2 weeks or something. It's been a long time, and then when they did, they had Jared McCann up on the top line, and Malkin was in. So we have a bit of a different situation here. I would expect that Pittsburgh 1 will probably match up with Nashville 1, but Pittsburgh 3 also might get some ice time against them. So Pittsburgh's 3 is really good defensively. They, in terms of scoring chances against per 60, they rank among the best on this entire slate. And then Pittsburgh 1, I think, is a fine play tonight. They're not my favorite just because they go up against Nashville 1, and Nashville 1, though they don't score, they do have a great Corsi percentage, a great shots for percentage, so they tend to dictate the play. So it would really depend on the matchup here. If you could get Pittsburgh 1 and they weren't going to hard match against Nashville, or if you think that they aren't going to hard match, then I'd upgrade Pittsburgh 1. And if you think Pittsburgh 3 won't get them, then I think that's a fine stack as well, like a fine filler stack. So, and then Pittsburgh 2 as well, kind of cheap. I just got their numbers right here, so I'll just pull them up. But and then the only other note for tonight was Letang is out, so you're going to have to upgrade Schultz a little bit, I think. He's still fairly reasonably priced. So yeah, Pittsburgh 2. Oh, we got McCann on Pittsburgh 2 now. Is that right? Yeah. So Pittsburgh 2, not generating a lot of chances together in 43 minutes. So I'd be far more inclined to go with Pittsburgh 3 at that price point, and the fact that they're generating 30 scoring chances for and 13 high danger chances for. Hornqvist is on the top power player, and he also gets, I think, a double grade from Osmo today, right?
Yep, absolutely. He's got the 2As and the 4,400. Not a horrible price point. I think enough people on DK will stay away from him because he's got the third line, and we're probably all down to aces at this point that are playing DFS. Basketball and hockey at the end of the year, but they can get lost in the shuffle, and that's one of the things I have noted, and that's why I specifically wanted to call it Pittsburgh 3. When I'm setting up my crunches, rarely do I go to a third line. I usually set up one crunch with line 1 and then one crunch with line 1 and 2, or stacks, I guess is what we would call them.
Yeah.
So I don't always get the 3, and that's why if there's one that pops, I want to make sure that I set aside a small percentage, like 3 or 4% of my lineups, where I say, okay, lock those guys in, now build around them and then move on, is generally how I do that, because I'm not, again, I'm usually playing 40 to 50 lineups based on what I can get in, and I'm not as savvy as you guys managing, especially Jake, spinning that 150 lineup portfolio magically with just one crunch. I got to do it in sections to get it to do what I want it, to where I want my end results to be. But that was the one I did kind of notice there. Let's see, anything to do on the defense side here?
So it's like one of these rare slates where actually we don't have a lot of these high-priced defensemen graded out as well as we normally do. Normally it's just like a no-brainer that Giordano gets a AA grade or Yossi gets a AA grade, or at least one of them will be. And that's not the case today. I don't really have any problem going to Yossi here. If you're paying up a D, I think he and Giordano are fine plays. He's going to get his 25 minutes. He's going to get his power play time. He's shooting the puck at a decent amount. He had 8 blocked shots last game. So, Yossi's just one of these safe floor defensemen. Probably not going to be very popular as well tonight as people try and fit in some of these higher priced stacks or go to Giordano, who's in a perceived much better matchup than Josi. So, or Tyson Barrie, who's also kind of hot right now. So, I think Yossi's a fine play. And I like Schultz on the other side as well, just because you're getting a $4,500 power play quarterback who's going to play 20 minutes a game on a pretty potent offense. But I think I'm going to have some Pittsburgh one shares, just some FOMO shares. But for the most part, I'm not very high on that line as a whole, though they do get a lot of ice time. I just think that the matchup against Nashville 1, if they end up going that route, would be a bit of a detriment to their upside.
All right, let's continue along here. Oh, my heroes, the Detroit Red Wings. Detroit won, baby.
Did you pair him with Winnipeg 3?
No, I did not, because of how I set things up. I didn't get any Winnipeg 3, and I was laughing because you guys in chat kept tagging me saying, there's an assist for Winnipeg 3. Oh, there's this. I'm like, son of a gun.
3 goals. You called it. You had the shot. The Winnipeg 3 whisperer from now on.
Yeah, exactly. We'll mention them right up there with Buffalo too, I guess, as long as I'm on the shows. But we've got an interesting one here, relatively evenly matched. You've got Blackwood, who has been confirmed in the net for the Devils, and then we're waiting to see what's going to happen on the back-to-back with the Red Wings. As we saw last night, Detroit won was the golden ticket, if you will. They actually are getting a AA grade, little peek behind the curtain, but they're getting a AA grade on both FanDuel and DraftKings as their top line from Osmo. There's one other top line that's getting that as well tonight. But do we go back to the well here?
What's going on with these lines? I didn't realize that Darren Helm had been put up there. Is that a recent development? So like Tyler Bertuzzi was on that line tonight or last night, and they wouldn't have skated today because they played last night in Buffalo. So I'm just kind of curious as to why that's listed that way. If anyone has a link to the Darren Helm, I didn't even really look into this because I just didn't think there would be any reason to think they would switch. So I don't know why those lines are like that.
Looking at two of our competitors, or two other sources that we go to, you know their names. They both have the top line the same that we do.
The Darren Helm.
The Darren Helm, Larkin, Mantha.
Well, I'll look it up and see if we can get to the bottom of that in chat, or if anyone has any information, that's great. But that makes me like that line less. Darren Helm's not as good of a player as someone's saying NHL.com put that up. Probably not true. So maybe that's Ray Rock 215 saying that. So yeah, it would be very strange to like break up a line that was dominant last night in a win and you didn't have a practice. So
unless like Larkin was hurt again or somebody was sick or whatever, there was no impetus for it in this one.
Yeah, exactly. So I would be very skeptical of that. I don't see any of the beat writers tweeting it out, but maybe that's different. It could also be because Frans Nielsen is day to day, so they're shifting their lines around. That might be the reason for the change. But this is one of those situations where you're going to want to be on top of your line rushes and see what's up. Could be a huge edge advantage if it does end up that way to try and get that right combo. So like even if Helm's on there, I think it's a line downgrade, but people might not be on top of that. They might have Bertuzzi given last night. So you can probably switch to Helm and getting some leverage on the field in a pretty good matchup. And then I also like also kind of like the New Jersey side of this game a little bit. I think they're going to go under-owned and underappreciated. New Jersey's starting to get a little more healthy. They have two decent lines that can put the puck in the net, and they're fairly reasonably priced. And Detroit is, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. They rank in like the bottom 5 in most statistical categories. So I kind of think it's a nice pivot play here to get some New Jersey 1 and some New Jersey 2. And then like Detroit 1's numbers are just off the charts. They're cheap. They're a great play, but they're going to be popular tonight. I'm guessing like 15 to 20%. New Jersey does a really good job of slowing things down. Detroit playing back-to-backs on the road at the end of the season. There's some narratives here that could make you think that you'd want want to get on a Detroit one fade a little bit and sort of, especially coming off that recency bias, if they're going to be the most popular filler stack on the night, maybe you get off them and take the New Jersey side of it and kind of use that as a leverage spot in a few of your lineups. I think I will do that a couple times anyways.
Okay, and then looking down here, in this, again, one of the lower goal totals we have of the night. Any interest in some of the defensive guys? A couple of them are cheap. Are they fillers, or is there just some better options, as you mentioned, from I think it was from Pittsburgh that had one?
Yeah, what's our total at here? Is it so Detroit's only implied for 2.8 goals? That's a little bit scary.
We're at 5-5, barely
5-5. Yeah, so that's a little bit scary. Yeah, and then New Jersey, like their numbers are kind of like middle of the pack in terms of scoring chances against, since they've had all these injuries. So yeah, other notes. Sorry, Hronek is an interesting play, I think, for Detroit. He's still not getting that power play one time, but he did get 22 minutes last game. He had 6 DK points. So one of the benefits of rostering this line tonight is that they didn't get that price bump because the pricing came out, I think, before that game was over, or like very close to it. So that's a kind of a reason to like them a little bit more. So yeah, I'm just going to check this power play last game and make sure he wasn't put up there, because that would make Hronek a smash play tonight, I think, at that price. But no, it's still Nick Kronwall, the human pylon quarterback in their power play. So yeah, go for Detroit. If you want to pivot, go to New Jersey and watch those line rushes from that game.
Okay, let's head on to our next one. Now, we kind of have a sort of split slate tonight between the East Coast games and heading out to the Mountain and West Coast time zones.
Hour and a half, yeah.
Yeah, so it's that later slate. I wasn't paying attention when I was jumping in as I was just entering things this morning, and I ended up just clicking a big fast placeholder lineup, and two of my favorite teams that I always like to play at home are Vegas and Colorado. And I look down, I'm like, oh, look at that, how great is it? I ended up with mostly Vegas and Colorado, and then I'm like, wait a second, there's only 3 games on this slate. Why are we doing a show if there's just 3 games? And then I saw, oh, it's the night slate. And then my next thought was, damn, 3 games on a night slate? That feels a little rich for a Friday night. Maybe you see that on Hockey Night in Canada or whatever. But I thought, oh, okay. But that kind of stood out for me. So I said, oh, I'll just let it ride. I'll have time to circle back after doing all the sports to clean up these lineups. But we have the Avalanche and the Yotes here. You've got we don't know that if Kemper's confirmed or not, but you've got my arch nemesis, now hero, Gruber is in net tonight, and I say that because I had Varlamov, because I always like to, so often on season long hockey, Nolan, that people forget about Colorado, so I like to pick up their goalies as like my third goalie or a streaming goal, because when they get at home and they pick up somebody who's on a back-to-back or a 2 and 3, they tend to have a little bit of an advantage that people don't often see. Well, Varley just proceeded to get his ass kicked after I picked him up, so I ended up picking up old PG here, who had he got me 3 spots, and I crested in as number 3. Didn't quite make it to the finals in the playoffs, but I'm playing for 3rd and 4th there. So shout out to him. 7,600. I like that. He's someone that I don't mind when I get, but it's kind of the hot hand like we discussed with Bobrovsky this week. A rational take on these two guys can be relayed by you. So I turn this over to you to talk about our netminders here.
Oh yeah. So I mean, Grubauer, I think is a fine play tonight. He's our highest rated goalie, I think, in terms of value. He's the only one with like a B value A grades, or A value B grade. So yeah, if you're going to stuff in a goalie as a one-off, I think that he makes for a pretty nice play. He's fairly cheap at 7,600. The Coyotes don't have a great offense. He's won like 17 straight games or something. No, not that much, but he hasn't lost in regulation since March 11th. And his save percentage, he's got 3 shutouts during that time, or 2 shutouts. Save percentage in like the 950s. So he's a hot goalie in a good matchup at home. I've got no problem with it. Yeah, that might be one of those plays where you just put Grubauer in instead of stacking your goalie tonight. He'd be my first choice to go to for sure.
All right, and I did not employ the stacking my goalie rule last night, even though I do remember you showing it to me. I consciously went away from it because I didn't like how they were lining up, and I couldn't tell what line was or which of my stacks was what.
I think some pros don't, like most pros do stack their goalie, especially if you're like 150 maxing, I think. But a lot of pros will, I've noticed, like just not stack it, especially on smaller slates, because it just gives you that gives you an advantage in terms of not duplicating lineups, right? If you have chalkier stacks, so definitely not the worst strategy there. And then from the Colorado Avalanche side, Gabriel Landeskog returns. Mikko Rantanen is out. Landeskog's with Soderberg and Wilson. Same line, same other lines. Yost with Calvert and Brassard, and then I think everything else is the same on that side. And Coyotes have kind of stacked their top line, I guess, a little bit. They've gone away from it. They've I swear to God, all these lines have changed in like the last 20 minutes. I don't understand what's going on today. So, it was Galchenyuk with Keller. Now it's not. So, looks like we got more line changes to be aware of here. Richardson's up with Panik and Hinostroza. I think that line's been together for a while. So just double check these Coyotes lines. I think they've changed. Power play is still the same though. So don't mind that side of the game as well. The Coyotes lines are always so cheap that you can use in every single one of them as a filler stack, and they just roll them. So you never know which one's going to go off, but they're low owned and decent plays for GPPs just from that perspective. But Colorado side of this game is definitely, I think, where you want to target. So a little bit of Colorado one with the double A grade from Osimo and some Grubauer for sure.
And this is actually a good one that Jeff McNatt was asking in chat. He said, hey, has Arizona been eliminated yet? So we know who the top 4 teams are going to be in the Western Conference, but we don't know who the next 4. They do 16, right? Or do they go deeper than that?
16.
Okay,
yeah,
16. I wanted to make sure because that is very, very important at this point in time because you got everybody's kind of jumbled in now at 77 games. We know they play 82, so they're going to go through next Saturday. So reminder, you'll get Jake back. This will be my last NHL show probably. I said this during the All-Star break, so who knows when I'm going to pop up again. But Jake will be back.
Probably go on vacation again next week.
Yeah, there we go. But we'll want to focus on this because this is actually a crucial one between the Coyotes and the Avalanche because they're kind of they're 2 points apart. So I'm not the best on the fly figuring out ties and who gets points for what. I'm not quite as quick, but I think Arizona, the way I'm looking at it, could probably lose 2 more before they get eliminated. But this is a key one because they need to climb over somebody in any.
If they win tonight, they're in.
Yeah.
So
is it confirmed? Okay.
Yeah, so they're 2 points back of the Avalanche, and they have, I think, the first tiebreak is wins, and they have 2 more wins than them. So yeah,
why don't I sort this by conference on ESPN instead of trying to count by division how many points somebody's behind somebody else?
Has the best ones. You can just click on their wild card standings.
Yes,
so
there we go.
Huge game in Colorado tonight for sure. This big playoff implications. I'd be surprised. I think Rantanen's been confirmed out, but which is too bad. But maybe he'll be back soon. But I don't know. I don't really have a great feel. I never really have a great feel for the Coyotes. I just kind of end up getting them in crunches because they project fairly well as filler stacks. So that'll be where I go mostly with like just a few lineups tonight. I think maybe like 1 or 2 with those Arizona lineups and then some Colorado 1. And I think you're good to go. Stack your Colorado 1 with Grubauer or use Grubauer as a one-off.
All right. And then one thing I wanted to circle back on, were you surprised that Landeskog was on the 3rd line? Or because I saw that we have Colorado 1.
What do we got here? Let me take a look. Let me pull up the YouTube chat. He's on like the de facto 2nd line with so this Brassard, so technically that's we may have it listed as the 3rd, but that's more the 2nd line.
Okay, and that because Osmo had the Colorado's the other team that was rated AA for their top line. Is that still hold true with some of these changes that
that line is actually still the same. So all 3 of those guys, and I'm just going to look up the numbers for them because Colorado's been sort of not sticking with their lines recently. That Colorado 1 has been the only one that's actually stuck together. So they had a 29% 5-on-5 share last game. Both those guys are cheap. McKinnon's a great kind of driving force for that offense. So I think Colorado 1 here is a pretty good play. I'm going to trust the Osmo projections there. I wasn't like personally into them, but this is the 2nd time in a row they've gotten a AA grade, and they're cheap and they're not going to be owned. So I think that you can easily go to Colorado 1 tonight for sure.
All right, and then I was just refreshing here, so as we go through the last two games, see if anything else is popped for confirmed goalies. But these are so much later. We may not have those just yet. Anything else we can tell our loyal viewers about this game?
Yeah, I think Tyson Berry's fine play. He's a little bit too pricey for me tonight. I think I'd rather just pay the little bit more to go up to a couple of these stud defensemen that are a little more reliable with higher floors. But if you want to stack him up on some power plays with Colorado one, go for it. He had like 9 DK points last game out, so that's a fine play too. But that's about it. Yeah.
All right. Getting ready to close her on out. We've got the Anaheim Ducks here going against the Flames, which of course means we've got to give a shout out here to Giordano. You've got Johnny G on the top line once again. If you're looking for an interesting play, he's one of the guys I like to go to, or I should say I don't mind when I'm getting one-offs in this particular one. But I did notice that you had written up that there's been quite a few line changes amongst Calgary themselves. So I'm going to just hand this one over to you after we mentioned that Calgary is pretty heavy favorites here. We've got them at minus 260 on the money line, which is basically 2.5 to 1, which is giant. And the biggest we've seen, I believe, this week while I've been on the shows with you. But that's with, looks like it'll probably be Mike Smith confirmed in goalie at this point. So that going against the Ducks, who are offensively challenged, shall we say, makes this one feel like one where I do want to get my goalie with one of these lines. But how are we sorting out these lines?
Yeah, so I'm disappointed to see that these lines have been updated now. It took a while. I think Daily Faceoff must just be sleeping today, and that's maybe like what people are using. Not entirely sure. So the Flames Big Three has been broken up for the last like few games, and now they're back together. I was just gonna try and get all over that tonight and hope that people weren't on it, but this news is too early. People are going to be on it. It's not a secret. It's a great matchup. They're all two of them, I think. Well, Monahan and Lindholm are priced down, so I'm gonna have some Flames. I think this is a great spot for them. They've struggled a little bit lately, but that's just because that lowers their price to a more reasonable level. We don't. If you're looking at the Stacks article, it's kind of tough to tell. I think I'm not sure if Osmo's updated, but I think he had the old lines in it when he graded them out, so that's not going to be indicative of them. And then Anaheim going all most of their top lines, like the Shore Raquel line, the second line, they're both in the bottom like third of scoring chances against and high danger chances against. The Ducks are pretty porous, so I think it's a great target here. You're going to see a plus matchup no matter who they line up against tonight. And just a few news and notes here. I think that Cam Fowler is going to be a game time decision last I checked, but who knows? Maybe that's changed while we're on the show too. Sneaky play mentioned in chat. I think Hampus Lindholm, if Cam Fowler can't go, Hampus Lindholm is really cheap. Josh Manson has the game time tag. So both those guys don't go. Lindholm's going to get a ton of minutes tonight. He blocks a lot of shots. He had 4 block shots in his last game. He's just a minute eater. He's probably got a really safe floor, and he's a good price at 4K on DK for some of your cash lineups. So if Anaheim's missing 2 of their top defensemen as well, you kind of got to boost them even more, right? So love Calgary in this spot. Calgary 1's gonna be my most owned line tonight. Maybe them in St. Louis 1 and Detroit 1. So all over this game, all over Calgary 1, hoping for a rebound here. Hoping that people are on top of this news.
And then this is for Calgary. This is their third game in 5 days. They played Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They also played last Saturday, so kind of it's a 4 and 7. So it's a pretty heavy stretch for them. They didn't play since Wednesday night. Vancouver played on Tuesday. Oops, did I get that? Sorry, Anaheim played in Tuesday in Vancouver. Technically, I guess they were on Vancouver because they were, standing there somewhere. But they did get the 1 extra day. But I think that'll kind of neutralize things. But you always got to look for heavy legs and stuff like that as we get down the stretch here.
I think this is also a chance though they can
they clinch
the Pacific Division tonight. So you got a home home game against a division rival. If you want to go narrative street, they're probably going to want to close this one out as soon as possible. So this is it's a huge to clinch this division, right? Because you avoid a top first round matchup against San Jose and Vegas, and you get to play Dallas or Colorado, which is like basically a bye into the second round. So I kind of like I like the Flames here to kind of, if we're going down narrative street, I like them to just get this done tonight.
All right, let's move along. That cover everything here from this game.
Just one other note about the Ducks. Ryan Getzlaf's a game time decision, so he probably won't go. He didn't play last time out. He's been a game time decision, I think, for the last 2 weeks. So interesting leverage spot if you wanted to put Getzlaf in if he goes, but because he's not going to get owned. But I just don't think he's going to go, and I don't think the upside's there to really spend any time worrying about it.
All right. Final game here of the night. Speaking of Las Vegas, we got them. They are hosting the Minnesota Wild. They are one of the heavier favorites tonight at a minus 180, minus 190, depending on which book you are looking at here. We don't have a confirmed goalie yet. Do you have any indication of who you think it will be, Nolan?
For Vegas, it's going to be Subban tonight.
Okay.
Marc-Andre Fleury's got a lower body injury, so Subban's just taken over the pipes right now. I don't think there's I think he might be – is he not confirmed? Yeah, he's confirmed. So
okay. I didn't want to hit refresh again because last time I did, the wheel spun for a little bit, and I don't want to finish the show with nothing to show on our screen for our viewers.
It's all good. It's all good. And Dubnyk on the other side for the Wild. The Minnesota Wild top line is grading out pretty well for Osmo. I saw a AA grade for Eric Stahl, which is interesting because you're going up against two of the best lines in the entire NHL tonight in terms of chance generation, shot generation. So, on the Vegas side of things, we have the second line reunited. Pacioretty is back. Unfortunately, again, this was a scenario where no one was on the lines as much as like an hour ago. That people did not have the right combinations, and now we are back at the scenario where we do have the right lines, and all the right lines are out. So that edge is gone. Unfortunately, I was going to go overweight on Vegas 2 with. We've got them wrong here, but Daily Faceoff has them right now. So,
all right, I'm going to hit refresh just since we are in the last game to see if we do have them. But we were having a little hiccup. It looked like with our lineup builder. So,
so it's going to be second line is going to be Stastny between Stone and Pacioretty. That line's numbers are disgusting, just as good as some of the other top lines. And then you can't go wrong with Vegas 1 as well here, just because they're so. They're reasonably priced. They're starting to heat up, and not great values, but still good plays. If you want to get contrarian tonight, you can go with the other side of this game and take Minnesota. Some of these second and third lines for Minnesota are reasonably priced. They're good cheap stacks to allow you to get in some higher priced defensemen, but they're also kind of weak plays. I think you're basically banking on Subban sort of not being a very effective. In net tonight, if you're going that route.
All right, and then anybody here on the defense?
Let's take a look at some of these. I'm just going to pull up the rankings here because I never really have a good feel for which Vegas defender to go to. I know Jake is he's got always a hot take on Shea Theodore or Nate Schmidt. I think that Colin Miller is very cheaply priced, and he was on the power play 1 last game. So for under 4K, that's a nice option. Just on this slate generally, there's so many nice cheaper defensemen around that 4.5K mark on both sites, and because we have the lower grades on some of the higher priced defensemen, this might be one of those slates where you can pay down a little bit at defense and not sacrifice too much. So I'm going to be doing that a little bit more than I normally do. Colin Miller was on the power play, but it's the power play 2 last game. So he got a 22% share. Shea Theodore is probably my favorite of the bunch of the Vegas defensemen, just because he's now getting the power play time, as opposed to Nate Schmidt, who was a couple weeks back. So all 3 of those guys are fine, but give me Shea Theodore as my preference. And then on the other side of this game for D as well, Minnesota, Jared Spurgeon's really cheap now. I think this is and Sutter really part part and parcel to just the bad matchup with a road game against Vegas and a low total. But both these guys get 25 minutes a game. Both these guys are on the power play one. Both these guys, have pretty safe floors, game in, game out. And I don't have really any problem going to either one of them tonight at those price points, despite the matchup.
Now, I know we had talked about, goodness, I wonder if it was all the way, I don't even know if it's this week or back during the All-Star break. We had talked about how we rarely see a power play unit that doesn't have a defender on it, but here we've got two defenders on it. Is that kind of a fallout from working Fiala in and some of these other guys, or is this a common one here where they go with two defensemen on it?
Yeah, they've been doing that for a while now, probably about a month. I'm not sure why they do it. It's probably just because they're pretty. Like Sutter's got a great shot, and Spurgeon's more of a pass first
facilitator. Yeah.
So it's probably just a case of that being their best option, because their forward lines aren't exactly overly talented. So and then they've got Brad Hunt, I think, who's very cheap, actually getting some power play time as well. But his ice time is so low that his upside is kind of mitigated by that. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's actually pretty old school, or like even like I don't know that many other teams use two defensemen on their top power play unit. It's pretty rare these days. So yeah, definitely intriguing. But it's always difficult to know which one to go with too, right? Because they're basically like the same play, right? The same value, the same minutes, the same matchup. They're on the same pairing. So,
I mean, if we were going to go that route, I'd want, and this is why I had to ask, because I didn't know who was better. I want the guy that's going to be doing more of the passing from the top. And I figured it was going to be the other guy that had the better, slap shot or quick shot or whatever it might be. Or, as you said, he just happens to be the best guy. How, every now and then that you get a guy who kind of skates between defense 3 and line 3, just because it's like, well, that's what we've got, so we need him out there. He's versatile enough to do it. But that was just one of the nuances I wasn't sure about. So.
Yeah, one of the things that Jake always preaches is like shot generation from defensemen. So he's less worried about assist equity and more worried about shots. Because, I guess if you're attempting shots for, that means you've got a chance at a goal going in, right? So defense goals are very unpredictable. It's hard to tell. You might hit 4 guys going on the way in. So if you're getting those shots, then that means your odds are increased at getting a goal. So from that perspective, like these guys are pretty similar plays. Sutter probably shoots a little bit more than Spurgeon, if I'm just guessing off the top of my head. But yeah, so it's kind of a tough call. But then you have like defensemen like Keith Yandel, who you want to pair with or maybe Shattenkirk is a good example of guys you just want to pair with like your power play. So you're banking on their assist equity because they don't shoot a lot. So there are some pass first defensemen that I think that's totally viable with. And then there are just some guys who give you an increased chance of getting a goal and getting more shots.
All right. That is going to wrap it up for us. We, of course, do have projections. We've got the line stacking article. We've got the line changes article. We're in Slack. And by we, I mean Nolan and Vots and Wassel and the guys that really, really, really follow this stuff. If you need me, I'll be in baseball Slack. We are doing office hours now here for our premium members. We have Nolan and Jake are going on Thursday and Friday. They're alternating who's doing it, but that will be at 5 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm going on Sundays, Sunday afternoon. We'll talk about Fantasy Cruncher. We'll talk about game selection. We'll talk about how you can do this without hitting the deposit button all the time, and pretty much anything else. We can talk NBA and we can talk baseball, which is my favorite. We had Alex. He's coming in at, I think he's 10 o'clock on Wednesday night. Adam Scherer is 10 o'clock on Tuesday nights. You've got Laffy in the mix. Basically, we've got you covered here with all sorts of little one-on-one coaching. And this is more, we've set these up at times so it's more or less of a who do I start or which player is better. But, hey, tell me how you approach the showdown slates. Tell me how you do the short slates. I hear that college basketball is pretty decent here at Osimo. How do you do that for someone who's never done it before? And, Nolan, you told me what you did. I went and did it, and my first day of college basketball this year was last night. Tripled up. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Let's go win some college basketball money.
That sounds good. You should see an MLB show starting right about now. That's going to be Laffy and Adam Scherer. They're also going to spend about 15 minutes covering the NBA. We will have Live Before Lock. We're splitting it. We're going to have Fast Eddie Fear on a Periscope. If you're into the NBA thing, you can find him there. We'll tweet it out from the Osmo account. And then you've got Chris Spags and Josh Engelman taking you down the home stretch for MLB at the exact same time. Tomorrow morning, you can get Adam Scherer and myself. We'll be breaking down the Saturday MLB games at 11:15, and then you'll get a Fast Eddie Periscope show for basketball, and then Live Before Lock, I believe it's me and Spags on Saturday night. So that'll be covering your MLB, and Jake will be back soon enough. With that, gamers, good luck.